Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. It is the week we have been circling on our calendar since before we even knew it was on our calendar. We knew at some point the Ravens would be making this London trip. Thought maybe we'd play the Jaguars, but other teams and other games go in that direction from time to time. This guy covers all things Jaguars in Jacksonville and is no stranger to Londinium. He's made this trip a couple of times already with the Jaguars. He will be going over this week as part of their charter later in the week. He's Brent Martineau. He is the sports director at CBS 47 and Fox 30 in Jacksonville. Also does some radio there at 1010XL as well as 92.5 FM. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent AS Jax down there with all things Jaguars. Well, first off, on the football field, Brent, it's been a little Jekyll and Hyde the last couple of weeks for the Jaguars, right?
Oh, boy. Big time. I mean, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I mean, what are the Jags, I guess, is what we're asking here this week. That win over Houston shocked us all. The Jags did not have a good preseason. It was ugly at times. The quarterback situation, the offensive line was terrible. They couldn't find a left guard. They had some issues. Even their first-team defense, with all the investment and all the hope and promise of that defense, wasn't good in the preseason. But, boy, against Houston, they dominated. They looked really good, and then they lay an egg at home against the Tennessee Titans in a divisional game. And, listen, the Titans aren't built to blow people out. They blew the Jags out in the second half of that game, 31 points in the second half. So are they the same old Jags, and we're headed to a 4, 5, 6-win season? Or is this somewhere in between and can battle with a somewhat soft schedule in the NFL and maybe make a run at the AFC South, which we know is not very strong?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the division's certainly sitting there at this point, but the Titans have now established themselves as the real deal. Clearly, the Colts aren't much without Luck. Might not have been much with him. And Houston's still figuring out the quarterback thing. It is sitting there, but the answer is Blake Bortles. And certainly for the Jaguars, they've lost a lot by losing their wide receiver. And we're going to go play without Marshall Yanda here for the first time in 12, 13 years because he's been that kind of a guy around here. It's very, very difficult once these injuries start mounting to have things work normally, right?
Yeah, I think that, you look around the league and people are getting hurt and they're losing some big-time players. I don't think the Jags have any business to really use that as an excuse. They've actually been pretty healthy. They came out of training camp extremely healthy, and then they got a tough blow. Allen Robinson's a very talented receiver. He's their top guy, and there's some separation between him and the rest of the guys in terms of their resumes. But it's going to happen, and it actually happened to a position that they have some veteran players and some proven players with Allen Hurns and Marquise Lee. Then D. Westbrook goes on the IR, so he's gone for at least half the year. But again, I'm not going to complain to people in Baltimore about an injury to Allen Robinson. I mean, geez, the injuries the Ravens have had over the last few years, and once again this year, their whole offensive line has been decimated. So everybody in the NFL has to do it. Jags have to overcome that, and really it's more about the quarterback, it's more about the O-line, it's more about playing the style of football that they want to play, and that wasn't the case on Sunday against the Titans. Too many penalties, too many 2nd and 15 situations, and 3 turnovers will do you in if you're built like the Jags on offense.
Well, dude, it's easy to buy the Kool-Aid when you win in week 1 like that, though, right? I mean, that's not what you were selling last week. What you were selling last week was, let's beat the Titans and go 2-0. That's not where they are, but certainly, not out of football game. I mean, you've come a long way from the stench you've seen around there that, especially in the early administration of Gus Bradley there, it never did wake up, but I can't think of a place that seemed worse football maybe this side of Cleveland than what you guys have endured, right?
Hey man, we were headed to Minnesota last week. Are you kidding? I mean, we know you got to pump the brakes, right? If you have a good week about it. The bottom line is that Jags hadn't got off to a good start like that. I mean, it had been 2011 since they had won their season opener, and they come home with all this excitement. Hurricane hits Florida. It really hits Northeast Florida pretty tough. People are dealing with that, but they're excited about the Jags for the first time in a long time, and they come home in front of a pretty good crowd. It had some electricity to it against a divisional opponent, trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 2006. They've been 2-0 in 11 years, and they just laid an egg. I mean, it was a stinker. So you go from high and, wow, this could be something. Maybe they figured it out finally. That defense they've invested so much in, that's going to be a pretty good defense in the NFL. and they give up 37 points to the Titans. I mean, it's just they don't like prosperity. The organization has been awful at dealing with opportunities when it comes, and they haven't come a lot. But I mean, that home crowd was ready to go, and the Jags just were awful in the second half against the Titans. So now they have to win them back over, and that might mean a big performance against Baltimore. It's a huge game, I think, for the Jags because it could go either way. It could start snowballing once again towards, like I said, 4-12, 5-11, or you go 2-1, and then you go to the New York Jets in a couple of weeks, and we know they're not very good. So you can be 3-1 after the first quarter of the season if you win this game against Baltimore. He's not on the line, I think, in London.
He is Brent Martineau. He covers all things Jaguars and Jacksonville sports as the sports director down at CBS 47 and Fox 30 in Jacksonville. You can find him at Brent ASJAX out on Twitter. He'll be making the trip over to London. All right, so, I've thought about this Jacksonville thing for a while, right? And they're playing more games over in London, and other teams have given away their games. Brent, famously in Baltimore, because of our PSL situation, and I am a poor sucker's license holder and have been for 22 years now, up in Section 513, they made a pact that they cannot give away our home games. So the Ravens can never be the home team in London. And you think, well, who gives up a home game, and what does that mean? Well, for the Jaguars this week, instead of being at home where the pool is or just getting on a plane and playing a road game in some place like Tampa or Miami or Atlanta or Carolina, someplace close, they actually have to do this big thing that the Ravens are doing for a road game that feels like an extended trip to Oakland or Seattle, maybe another hour or two in the air in both directions. But the time change also sort of gets you going the other direction. Harbaugh's done all of his sports science studies. Obviously, there have been 20 teams that have already gone over there and done this, but no one has done this more often than the Jaguars. They should be better at doing it, but in the end, it's still, they play 9 games on the road and 7 at home, and that is sort of weird unto its own self from an ownership or a competitive standpoint, but they do stand to have that competitive advantage this week that they sort of know their way to the hotel and back, right?
Yeah, and it is a little bit of an advantage, I think. That's a long flight. It's a different road trip. You're going the opposite way for us East Coast teams than you normally would going west. And the Jags were not good there the first couple of years. That was more of a talent thing, probably, than anything else. They got blown out a couple of times by the Cowboys and 49ers. But they figured it out a little bit. They have a 2-game winning streak now over in London. So what they figured out is going Thursday is better, and I think Baltimore is doing the same. But that's a different mode of traveling than they did the first couple of years. In fact, one year we went from Cincinnati right to London after a road game on Sunday. And then another year we came back home after it might have been a home game. I can't remember if it was a road or home. But we left on Monday and then went for the week. And then they decided, let's try this Thursday thing. Well, ever since they did the Thursday thing, they've been winning. So I think we've kept with that. It does feel like an extended West Coast trip, but it's totally different, too, because you have some fan obligations over there in London, especially the Jags, because it is a home game, and they've tried to build a little bit of a fan base over there. And don't get me wrong now, they don't try to build a fan base because they're moving to London someday. That narrative is couldn't be further from the truth. But they do make a ton of revenue over there. They have a sales team full-time in London. The Jags owner also owns a soccer team over there, Fulham. And so they have some resources, and the dollars come in. In fact, 15% of their local revenue comes from this game in London because they sell every season, and they sell it at like $180 to U.S. dollar. So they get a ton of money from this game, and it's a big deal. It helps in this small market for the Jags to go to London, build a bit of a fan base worldwide, build the brand a little bit, and also they take a lot of the city people and try to build downtown here in Jacksonville, but get some jobs over from London. So there's a nice little relationship now between Jacksonville and London. It's really worked for the Jags in recent years, but it is a little bit of an advantage, I think, for the Jaguars going over there when Baltimore hasn't been.
These games are traditionally sloppy, aren't they? I mean, just they sort of look more like Thursday night football than they do like Monday night football, right?
That's a good point. And then, listen, here's the one deal, and you'll notice this when you're over there. That field is slick. It's a soccer field. And Wembley Stadium is a fast, slick turf, something the kickers especially have to get used to. But overall, you'll see players slip. I don't remember guys slipping noticeably on other fields here in the States as I have when I've watched a game over in London with the Jags. The other thing is, the time change does something to you. You're out of routine, And so I do think there's a little bit of sloppiness to it. All these games, not just the Jaguars, but again, I think the Jags will be a little better suited to deal with it. Well, there's a lot of new players in that locker room that haven't done it either. So there's only a slight advantage. It's not a big one for the Jags.
He is Brent Martineau, Brent A.S. Jax. He's the sports director at CBS 47 and Fox 30. You can follow him out on Twitter. He will be making the journey over there. All right, so what's your favorite part of this whole thing, or are you over it? Is it just the trip to Chicago where you go get dinner and go to the game and that's it? The Big Ben and the whole king and queen and all that stuff, but, we're taking over tens of thousands of fans. I mean, this is going to feel like a Ravens home game, I feel, Brent, by the time it's all over with. We're throwing a big party on Saturday over in East London in the Docklands area near where the Emirates Air cable car goes over to the O2 Arena. We're doing that as a group at 2:52. We're going to be at the Fox at XL Sports Pub, get off at the Royal Victoria Tube stop. But, Brent, it is fun getting on the tube and running around and walking on the wrong side of the street and trying to go get an Abbey Road picture, right?
Yeah, listen, can I come to some of those parties, by the way? Send me the invite. And,
dude, done. For you, first pint's on me. Come on over, brother. We got you, man.
Definitely, you got to get in a pub over there in London, for sure, and check that out. But I think, listen, I hate when us media types sit here and say, oh, boy, we got to go to London again. We got to make a flight over there. It's such a hassle. I mean, come on, fellas and ladies and whoever's complaining about it. I think it's a cool deal. I mean, this will be my fourth time in 5 years, and I just think it's different. I'm not a world traveler. The only time I've ever been overseas was to go to this game. And I think London is a really cool city. And the money seems to ooze off the walls in London, so bring your wallet. But it has the New York City feel to it. So I think it's a cool trip, and it doesn't get old to me. We've seen the sights now: Big Ben, Buckingham Palace. Those are all walkable once you get into the main part of the city. And they do a good job with the game. I mean, they get a little fired up about football, but you're in a big city. It has the feel, I don't know if you went, but the Super Bowl that was in New York, it kind of feels a little bit like that. It's a big city that often has big events, so it's not just taken over by this one event, but it does have the feel that something special and different is going on. So I love it. I check out the sites, man. Don't miss that opportunity when we have a couple of days to do that, because you got to take advantage of it. It's a good opportunity to watch a football game, but also see a new city. Do
me a favor, man. Grab my old colleague from Sporting News Radio, Rick Ballou, and all the rest of the Jacksonville media types. Get yourselves on the tube. Roll east on Saturday. Party starts at 11. Delicious fish and chips, mushy peas, pints. The games will be on. And then have you taken the Emirates Air cable car over the Thames yet?
I have not.
Well, you should do that with us. Come on over and be a part of it. We will even invite the quote-unquote enemy in Jacksonville. We got bad vibes about Jacksonville around here because you stole our football team. You are aware of that, Brent, right?
I know. Hopefully that will dissipate at some time. You're Cleveland, right? I mean, you guys can go back and forth.
We can be angry with Indianapolis, and every time I get David Lamb on, and I know he's a dear friend of both of ours, and I want to send some get well wishes to him. He's a little bit on a struggle this week, and I was hoping to have him on. But we always go back and forth about the time that Bob Irsay landed the helicopter down there at the Gator Bowl when Jacksonville was trying to lure the Colts in 1979. You can Google that. It's a wonderful image of Tiger Bob landing with our franchise and doing a little tour and trying to give Jacksonville the ball. But Brent Martineau,
Lambert tells that story really well. It's a good story, and obviously not. I know it doesn't sit well with you guys.
Well, it's even better when he tells it with a cigar. Then you and a golf club and wearing golf shoes or something. Brent A.S. Jackson.
Tell a story without a cigar.
Well, then that makes it. That's why all the stories are good. Now I've learned the truth. For you with the Ravens at 2-0, this is a little bit of people. Look, everybody's going to wake up with this game on Sunday. It is a national game. It's the only game being played early in the morning, very early in the morning if you're out on the West Coast as well. They're going to see a defense that might be the best unit in the division on either side of the ball. And, they got gashed a little bit by the Browns, but held up well. I don't think anyone, especially when Flacco was not on the field 3 weeks ago, really believed the 2-0 and this sort of enthusiasm would be going on around this game.
I think the surprise here for probably you guys is Cincinnati was so bad. I mean, I was a little surprised to see Cincinnati that bad. And, then Cleveland's Cleveland. So the schedule is really pretty light for the Ravens. And now the Jags, which I'm assuming everyone in Baltimore is like, oh, good, the Jags, we got that one too. That's the way other cities look at the Jags, and I get it. But I can't believe 10 turnovers in a couple of games. I mean, that's ridiculous. So the defense is certainly playing well. I think the Jags will be kind of thinking the same. The offensive line is certainly beat up for the Ravens. The offense doesn't scare you, I don't think, for the Ravens. So I think the Jags defense, which is their strong suit, probably feels like, okay, we can get after them a little bit. And then it all comes down to Leonard Fournette for the Jags. Can they give him the ball enough? Can they keep the game within reach or play from ahead where you're giving it to him? And I'll tell you what, guys, he's a special dude. I mean, that guy is a tough runner. You didn't see it Sunday against the Titans because they fell behind, only 14 carries for 40 yards. But even the 4-yard runs are fun to watch. And so you'll enjoy watching number 27, I think, on Sunday in London.
I think part of the game is the Ravens have really enjoyed taking the ball away. They've really enjoyed harassing the quarterbacks the last couple of weeks. So, Terrell Suggs feels like he's found the fountain of youth, and this will probably be the only game he ever plays in the UK. And certainly he wants to bring his sizzle. You got an interesting thing here. The Ravens take the ball away, and Blake Bortles likes to give the ball away. And when that happens, to your point, it completely eliminates the running game for them, right?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I was thinking about that this morning. Once I was doing a little work on Baltimore, 10 turnovers, and we know what Blake's numbers are. I mean, it's 50-plus turnovers in 3 change years in the NFL, and he has to take care of the football. You could argue a couple of the turnovers on Sunday against the Titans were not his fault, but the bottom line is it's associated with him, and he's not a threat right now in the passing game. And we talked about Allen Robinson. They don't have a big threat in the passing game. And people are going to load the box. I mean, Baltimore's going to put 8 and probably crash down a 9th guy in the box and say, hey, Blake Bortles, let's see if you can beat us. And Bortles just can't beat himself and the Jaguars by turning it over. It's as simple as that. It's who doesn't make the mistake. I think the Titans played the same way against the Jags, and I think the Ravens will play the same. I think they both want to do the same thing. And that is not make mistakes and let your defense kind of win the game and maybe special teams. The difference here is quarterbacks. Marcus Mariota made some big throws on Sunday, kind of loosened up that game a bit. And we know what Joe Flacco can do. I mean, everybody would take Joe Flacco over Blake Bortles. So Bortles has to step up his game. They've got to make some plays in the passing game if they want to win because they're putting 9 in the box against Fournette and Chris Ivory.
This is a little bit like one of my, 10 basic questions that I like to ask everyone, especially in football season. Who's the Jaguars' best player? Make a case for someone there. I know Malik Jackson got all the money, but I'm not sure he's their best player.
Yeah, I think I've said for the last 2 years now, I believe Jalen Ramsey is the best football player on this team. I think he's the one guy that I will say I said it last year, so I said it in 2016, I'll say it now, that I don't think it's an overstatement to say this guy could end up at Canton, Ohio. I think he's that good. And he's got a swagger to him, he's got an edge to him. Now, they've got some good football players on that defense. I mean, Miles Jack is going to be good, I believe. Telvin Smith already is pretty good. Calais Campbell had 4 sacks in the opener. He's a tremendous leader, tremendous veteran, consistent player. Malik Jackson, look out for him. He might be banged up a bit on Sunday in London. And Yannick Ngakoue is a guy nobody really talks about, but he's from up that area and went to Maryland, and he's been unbelievable from a stat standpoint in terms of rushing the passer in these first couple of years of his career. And then you go to Leonard Fournette. I mean, he looks like the guy he's been built at. If they can just block for him, if they can open some things up in the passing game. So it's a long answer to your question. I would put Jalen Ramsey number 1 because I've seen him more. But I think I would put a guy like Leonard Fournette right behind him. I think Fournette is going to be the real deal in the NFL for years to come.
Tell me one thing in London that every Ravens fan should be doing while they're over there that's not Big Ben or Kensington. I mean, something that's maybe off the beaten path, something you've done that you can recommend. I have recommended the Churchill Museum to everyone, and almost everyone that's come on that's been there has said, yeah, that's the thing to do. What else you got for me over there in London for a travel?
Well, that one didn't even cross my mind, but I will say this. I'm not a soccer guy, but you know the deal over there. They love their soccer, football, of course. And the Jags owner, as I mentioned, is an owner of the Fulham Football Club. And where they play, it's right on the Thames River. And it actually, to me, reminds me, I grew up in New England, so it reminds me of Fenway Park, the facility. So you can pick your any game. But on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, if you get a chance to go to one of the soccer games and just check it out and see the different environment, how much they love it, like we love college football and pro football, I would say do it. You don't have to be a soccer fan to do it. It's a great experience. I think Fulham, I don't even know if they're home. I haven't even checked. But that's a cool venue. But there are other ones, too. I've only been to that one. Like, get there and see the atmosphere. It's really pretty neat to see. So if you have a couple of hours, go see a soccer match. That would be my recommendation.
There you go. All right. Well, then we take all recommendations around here. Everyone's giving different ones. Thomas Dolby, the pop star who wrote She Blinded Me with Science, came on earlier this week and gave me one that I had never even thought of, but this is why he's a rock star and a professor here at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and I'm not, which is if you're jet lagged at 3 in the morning, don't fret. Get in a cab and go through London because you can see it all very quickly and very well with no traffic at 3 in the morning. So he even gave me jet lag tips for our fans, which I think is super cool, you know?
Well, that is good because you can't get around London too quick. There's a lot of traffic. You'll notice that when you get to Heathrow in the airport and then try to get to your hotel, it'll probably take 2 hours. So plan on that.
Get in the tube, buddy. Get in the tube. Level. That's where we're going to do it. Hey, I do hope you and Baloo and all my Jacksonville pals come on over and bend an elbow with us on Saturday. Brent, always great to visit with you. Appreciate it. I'm going to miss all the beaches down there on this trip, and I'm going to miss sitting out in the pool out there in the corner of the end zone like I did last year. But, our time will come. We'll come back to Jacksonville again soon.
Absolutely. Look forward to the trip. Safe travels, and everybody's going over to see us at Wembley Stadium. It's really a good time.
Next time we see each other, we'll be 5 hours ahead of time. It's like a time capsule machine. He is Brent Martineau, Brent A.S. Jax, out on Twitter, and the sports director at CBS 47 and Fox 30 down in Jacksonville. We are over in London all week. Our party begins at 11 a.m. on Saturday at the Fox at XL Pub. It's in the Docklands area in the east side of London off the DLR train at the Royal Victoria stop. We're about 2 blocks away from the Emirates Air cable car. We're going to be doing that as the post game. So some eats, some drinks, and an incredible cable car ride over the River Thames to the O2 Arena where we're going to take a group photo and disperse and have some drinks and try to have a little bit of fun and march on London, as we would say, or as we did in New Orleans a few years ago. The Buy a Toyota Audio Vault is there for you 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from wherever you happen to be. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. You can find me out on social media all week. We'll be Facebooking live, tweeting, linking in, Snapchatting, Instagram, doing all of that stuff from the streets of London for the next couple of days as we take our group over there. Our group's participating in the party on Saturday, and we hope you do as well. Trying to keep it simple over there. A million people going in a million different directions. I'm trying to see Royal Albert Hall on Friday night with Ryan Adams and run around on the channel and the tunnels and the tubes. So we hope to see you over there if you're going. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.